You're listening to Birds Coast to Coast. Here's your host, John Clark and Tanner Riddle.
Welcome to episode 24 of Birds Coast to Coast. Today, we're going to go over the AFC West with our buddy, Collin. Collin is a friend that I made from working at ASU. We worked there for about a year together. Huge Raiders fan. So he's going to kind of help us go over not only just the Raiders, but give us a unique perspective as a fan going up against the Chiefs, the Chargers, and the Broncos. Collin, you want to give yourself a little bit of an introduction and maybe explain maybe how you became a Raiders fan?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you, Tanner. And thanks, guys. I'm happy to be here and happy to be talking some football with you guys.
Of course.
So, yeah, I grew up and was raised a Raiders fan. I grew up in Northern California and about 45 minutes from Oakland in a small town called Tracy. Yeah, my fandom started when I was young. I got into football when I was about 4 or 5 years old, about the time I could remember even seeing it on the TV. My Raiders fandom just kind of boomed from there. All my friends in school were 49ers fans and couldn't stand them. And so that's partially what drove me to becoming a Raiders fan, was besides, the sweet colors that we've got, it's been fun to root for them, but not a whole lot to root for on the field. So hopefully, with the turning of this offseason, things can go further and we can actually start winning some games.
Were you old enough to appreciate the 2002 Super Bowl? Or at least going to the Super Bowl?
I was not. No, I was only a few years old when that happened. So unfortunately, yeah, they've made the playoffs in my time of being a fan only twice.
No, oh my gosh.
Only twice since then. Yep. Our 2016 dream team when Derek Carr broke his leg and
yep. And that was a really good team too. That they didn't just sneak in. That was a good team.
Derek Carr was leading for MVP, I think, or at least he was an MVP frontrunner at that point.
Yeah, it was him, Tom Brady, and I want to say that was the Carson Wentz year also.
So Carson Wentz was 2017, but it's very interesting that you bring up Derek Carr because a lot of Eagles fans kind of relate the 2017 Wentz injury to the 2016 Derek Carr injury. I remember when he tore his ACL, it was a very similar conversation. Like, well, Carr was on an MVP path, and he messed his leg up, and the Raiders kind of went into a tailspin after that, and we're like, oh my God, is this going to happen to us? It's the same type of situation, but it didn't, as we know. But it was definitely a topic of conversation in 2017. But yeah, that 2016 Raiders team was awesome. Derek Carr had a run there for a little bit. He was a fun watch.
Yeah, he was really good in that year and the year before. And then, after the broken leg, it took him probably about 2 to 3 years, I feel like, to actually get his confidence back on the field, between even just rushing the football, breaking out of the pocket. It really wasn't until the year of Gruden's scandal kind of coming about when I feel like he started to truly regain the confidence he had in those middle 2010s. And so, yeah, it just seemed like every time we were getting somewhere as a team, starting to trend up, something, leg gets broken or scandal comes out or unfortunate circumstances arise. And so it's been, hopefully that's we're past that portion.
So the Gruden scandal year, that's when you guys actually made the playoffs, right?
That was the other year we made the playoffs. Yep. We
wow.
Yeah, Gruden got fired. I want to say like week 9 in the season. Had to step down, and we had Rick Bisaccia step up, and our special teams coordinator at the time take over. And he did a great job given the circumstances of our team in that little stint. But yeah, he just coached out the rest of the year, and we lost in the wild card to the Bengals when they made the Super Bowl.
Wasn't he kind of considered for the head coaching job after that? Or was that just kind of, it feels like we have to give him an interview?
I want to say it was more of the latter, like he came in, and because we made the playoffs, it wasn't like a, thank you for your service sort of thing. They gave him an opportunity, but they ended up going with McDaniels after that. So good old Josh McDaniels.
All right. Well, there's one thing I know about Raiders fans is that they're one of the more passionate fan bases in the NFL. And over the past few years, they've had to have an adjustment of moving their franchise out from Oakland to Las Vegas. What's your opinion and feeling on that now that your team has kind of moved and switched cities? Like, has that fandom like been hurt a little bit, or like is the passion kind of still there? Do you see like people traveling out to Vegas? Like, what do you kind of notice from the fandom's reaction to the team moving?
I'd say the reaction is a little torn. Obviously, those of us who are fans of them in Oakland, and I mean even those who were fans of them when they were in Los Angeles prior to my time, I think it wasn't new to them to see them move to a new city and embrace a new market. For me, I think seeing them go somewhere where the community will actually embrace them outside of the actual fans that reside in the area. I've been lucky enough to go to a game in Vegas since they've made the move, and I can tell you as a fan, the experience it's different, but a lot more enjoyable, I would say, for the average fan. Going to the games, you don't see as many of the diehards like you did in the Black Hole and at the Coliseum back in Oakland. But I'd say that the fandom has traveled pretty well given how they departed Oakland.
Well, Colin, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think I remember you going to that game. Wasn't that crazy like 0-0 game against the Vikings?
Yeah. The final score was 3-0 Vikings, and
what a barn burner.
We had real slugfest between Aiden O'Connell and Josh Dobbs going in that one, and they scored a field goal with, I want to say, 2.5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. An experience where first sporting event I've ever been to where both teams' fans left upset.
And then did you follow it up with a hockey game, or am I making that up?
No, you're on the money. Yeah, we went to a Vegas game, and so for hockey, I'm a big hockey guy as well. I go for the Sharks in hockey, and so lucky enough, the Sharks were in town that night after the game, and so the group I was with, we went to the hockey game, and we saw 9 goals in that game versus 3 points in the football game. Not often you can say that happens. So, it was. Yeah, the hockey game really blew it out of the water for sure.
Vegas is fun. Vegas is a really fun city. I mean, I am glad that for them to get the football team and all these new sporting teams like the A's are now out there too. I see they started playing their games. That baseball field out there is a launching pad too. All the runs out there, it's crazy. People are hitting like 500-foot home runs. It looked like every night, but. Vegas getting all these sporting teams is really cool, and it's just a fun town. And I think when a lot of people were kind of worried, and it was kind of, I don't know, it's kind of cliche. They're like, can they have athletes out there and be trusted in Vegas? It's like, come on, like they're professionals, like we all we know like there's gonna be some knuckleheads that just can't handle it, but for the most part they'll be fine. So thanks again for joining us. So what we're gonna do tonight is basically do like we have been doing for the audience. Doing a quick rundown of how the AFC West went last year, team by team, kind of doing like a review of how their season went, and then like kind of analyze what they've done in the offseason, and then maybe do like a quick little projection as to how we think we'll do in the following year, what they think we'll do in the following year. And the AFC West was a very interesting one this year because the king of the division that had been reigning for like multiple years took a weird, clumsy step back. And it wasn't just due to quarterback injury, because that happened kind of towards the end of the year. But the Chiefs were not the same team, and they tumbled so far down that they had a pretty good draft pick this year, like better than you'd expect. So it was so shocking to see that team just basically become a shell of itself pretty early in the year. The team that everyone kind of saw winning those close games in 2024 and then getting absolutely demolished by the Eagles, go Birds, in the Super Bowl. Like it just seemed as though they didn't reclaim that Chiefs status that they had the year prior, where they weren't just squeaking by the hair of their chin. Like they were actually winning successfully and by a large margin. Everything flipped on them. All of those one-score games just kind of went the exact opposite direction. But that's what we noticed starting with that division. But since you're here, Colin, let's start with your Raiders. What happened last year? They ended up with the first overall pick. What happened? Where was the disconnects? I'm sure a lot of things went wrong to make that happen. What was your analysis based on what went wrong and why?
I'd like to think that just about everything that could go wrong went wrong last season. We brought in Pete Carroll to be our head coach, and bringing him in, I think, puzzled a lot of Raider Nation. Being coming into the role as the oldest coach in the NFL when we had one of the younger rosters at the time, when he was brought onto the roster, yeah, he made questionable decisions with his coaching staff. I mean, the first one being Chip Kelly coming in to be the offensive coordinator. Chip Kelly has had his success. I mean, I'm sure you know John from his time in Philadelphia. He had his moments in the NFL, and he went to college and had a lot of success with Ohio State as their offensive coordinator.
Mhm.
So on paper, you would think that, oh, that would be a good hire, and he's going to come in and, should have some good good systems in place, and he just didn't have what we needed. I don't think he didn't build his playbook around our players. I think he tried to make our players buy into a system that we just didn't have the personnel for.
It sounds familiar. It sounds really familiar. I remember when Chip Kelly shipped out LaShawn McCoy and said DeMarco Murray was a better fit for his system, and he wasn't. So, or Sam Bradford was a better fit for his system instead of Nick Foles. After Nick Foles threw 27 touchdowns and 2 interceptions, don't know how you can get much better than that. But no, I totally get how he has that kind of reputation of just kind of being like you're going to fit into my system or you're out type of offensive coordinator. It's interesting when he went back to UCLA and then subsequently after that Ohio State. The high flying Oregon fast paced offense, like it seemed as though he really kind of changed how he ran his offense into more of like a pro style, and I think that's what got a lot of NFL teams really excited. Was like it seemed as though he kind of refined his approach to not being so, for lack of a better word, gimmicky, because that's kind of what got him kind of like screwed in Philly. Was like the only thing he really had was that he runs plays quickly, and like that was all he really like. That was his one trick. There wasn't really much to it besides that, and then. I think he grew a little bit as a coordinator in college, going to Ohio State. Didn't they win the national championship? He had a lot of success.
Yeah, they did.
Right?
Yeah.
So it makes sense for a front office to be like, hey, let's give this guy a second shot. It just didn't work out. His bad quality reared his ugly head again.
Yeah, it was unfortunate it didn't work out because when the news first broke that he took the position, it was just right after the national championship, and so those of us who are looking at this staff and trying to find, a veteran presence to kind of right the ship, it got us excited. I was personally excited when we first brought him on, and I figured with him being there, he was most likely going to be the succession plan for Carroll had things worked out a few years later, and he was still around. So I think personally the season first went downhill just because of the staff decisions. I like to think that Patrick Graham, who was retained as a defensive coordinator, was not much at fault last season, given the circumstances. I think he did fine. We had some injuries on the defensive side. I don't necessarily blame him for it. But yeah, bringing in Geno Smith was another decision. Trading a third round pick at the time seemed like a fair trade, given that Gardner Minshew didn't really do much for us the prior season. And Aiden O'Connell had shown flashes, but he hadn't necessarily taken the step that you'd want out of a franchise guy. It was just unfortunate with Geno Smith. He didn't really fit Chip Kelly's system overall, and we had a terrible offensive line performance. I wanted to say we were ranked bottom 4 in terms of offensive line play. So those combinations just killed us from the beginning.
Yeah, I don't want to go back to the Pete Carroll hiring though too. It just didn't make sense because you said he was the oldest coach in the league. I think in NFL history, like period.
Yeah, right? He was. If he wasn't the oldest in the history of the NFL, he was probably top 3 in terms. And I think he only
signed like a 3-year contract, which my understanding was like maybe the lowest tier coaches usually at least get 4 with like a 5th-year team option, and he only got 3. It just made zero sense to me. If there was a team who had continuously made the playoffs, couldn't just quite get over the hump, and they needed that one little extra push, that seems like the Pete Carroll type of team. But that wasn't the Raiders at all.
Yeah, it seemed like we brought him in just to kind of help right a unstabilized situation. And bringing in Chip Kelly, retaining Patrick Graham, trying to set a blueprint from his winning days in Seattle where he had much success. So he had much success at USC as well. I think they believed in him, to try and come in here and just lay the blueprint, honestly.
I think he was pretty anxious to get back into the NFL too. I mean, he is the oldest coach in the league, so he probably knows there's not. I mean, if not now, when? It did feel like though, like there was some confidence from Tom Brady. Like there was respect from him. Like, hey, I know what it takes. I've been around coaches like you. This is what I want. And I think they even, like, when you're talking about Chip Kelly, I think they also paid premium for him too. I want to say I think they may have paid the exact amount that we were paying Jonathan Gannon to be our head coach. So
yeah, he was one of the highest paid offensive coordinators.
There was a lot of excitement with Chip Kelly.
Yeah, it was just, Tom Brady came in, and ever since he's been with the ownership group, Mark Davis has looked to him as like his number one guy and being able to tell him what we need to win. And he's one of the most successful, if not the most successful person in the history of the NFL. So, I don't blame Davis for asking him for input on who should be brought in to, coach this team, run this team, play for this team. It's just, just wasn't the right call.
And on the other end, Mark Davis really hasn't had much success. Like you said, 2 playoff appearances in your lifetime. So, I mean, you're kind of desperate at that point.
With the amount of coaches that we have gone through in the last 10 years, I want to say we've gone through the most head coaches of any team as well.
I believe it.
Between just firing people, letting coaches go. He's anxious for a winner. He moved the team to Vegas to help, bring in more financial, bring more financial to the team and try to give the team a better chance to also attract players. Oakland wasn't exactly a very attractive destination, I'd like to say, for players. Most of the time they would look to a city like San Francisco if they were to go to Northern California. But yeah, I think Davis wants a winner. So he's going to try and do whatever he can to attract people to his team.
I mean, Vegas clearly has the entertainment aspect of it too, but they also have no state income tax as well, which you don't, something you have to think about when living in California. So yeah, from a player retention or a player acquisition standpoint, it makes a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, these players keep a whole lot more money in their pocket than they were when they were in Oakland. Yeah.
No, yeah,
the one thing that really surprised me was just how poorly Geno Smith played in Las Vegas.
Me too.
He was seen. I mean, I thought he was a great stopgap type Kirk Cousins, bridge to the next quarterback type, contract. Like he played pretty well in Seattle. Like in fact, he was kind of revitalizing his career up there. So it was surprising to see him go from a place that he seemed to have a lot of success in, and he went to the Raiders. And I don't know. I kind of thought he'd continue that little renaissance that he was building, because we've seen guys who've kind of been down and out and kind of revitalized their career, kind of like Baker, those guys who kind of bounce around. Sam Darnold, who went to Seattle and ended up winning a Super Bowl. I just thought there'd be a chance that Geno could go to the Raiders and kind of continue his success, but man, he threw so many interceptions. He just could not find his footing on the team, and it was a shame just because how many turnovers he had. It was hard to trust him. There's no way you could trust him. He just kept turning the ball over. Is that kind of what you saw?
Yes, definitely. And I would like to think that the worst part watching was when we were in the red zone. He had so many turnovers that came inside, the opposing 20. And that was just the killer for us, was he would have drives here and there where he'd get us down, get us inside the 15, get us to the 10. And we didn't have the offensive line to dominate within the 5. And we didn't have the receiving weapons to get open within the 20. So it created a pretty unfortunate, there was no plays that we could call that would probably have benefited Geno in those circumstances with our personnel. But the offensive line was, it starts on the line. You win in the trenches, and our offensive line did not play well last year. And I'd like to think also having Colton Miller, our left tackle, he missed a lot of games last season. Having him out on that line, who's our leader, was a big blow. And you could feel it. And so many of those picks came from Geno not having time and having to break the pocket early or try to rush a decision. And even when he got time, he just wasn't making the right decisions. So there's just, yeah, he threw a lot of picks that had you scratching your head as a fan for sure.
So I guess go ahead, Tanner.
I was just saying the Geno thing, it threw me off because he kind of represented like what was so bad about the Russell Wilson trade when he went to the Broncos. Not only was Russell Wilson not that great, but how good Geno actually was with Seattle. And I remember last year when the Raiders didn't have any other options at quarterback, I think they threw like a 3rd-round pick for him. I mean, it's not nothing, but it's a small price to pay to get a quick answer, something that you'd feel pretty good about. Yeah, I was just really thrown. Like, I thought it would be much better.
Yeah, I thought he was going to be much better too. I thought he'd come in and at least play league average, given his history in Seattle.
Yeah, that's kind of the expectation. Yeah, league average would be good. I guess it just goes to show the offensive line and how important it is. I mean, if you don't have that line, or if they're banged up, or if they're not playing well, I mean, it is a cascading effect. It sets the whole team back. It's a shame. I mean, and on top of that, you guys drafted that running back Ashton Genty out of Boise State, who probably had one of the more dominant college football seasons I'd ever seen. I mean, he looked like he was playing with a bunch of middle schoolers on defense, like just shrugging dudes off. And let me tell you, like my biggest, having him in Dynasty, of course, I was concerned about, seeing would that translate to the NFL level, just him being able to basically body NFL defenders. Like we're not talking about Boise State's opponents. We're talking about the AFC West, much different. And if I remember correctly, some of the stats showed that he was like a league leader in forced missed tackles. So like he played to the ability that we saw him play in college when he had the open space available to him to make those plays. So I feel like, even though the numbers weren't there, like the counting stats weren't there, it did feel like Ashton Genty made the most out of what he was given last year.
Yeah, he was given the circumstances for him were not nearly as fruitful as they were for him when he was at Boise State. And you can maybe chalk that up to the division he was in. You can maybe chalk that up to the difference in competition between college football and the NFL. I mean, one of the crazier stats about him last season was that he had more yards after contact than he did before contact.
That's insane. I think I knew that one too. Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah.
That's not good. That's not a good recipe for running the football.
It's not good for longevity either if he's going to get hit that much. My goodness. But no, he seemed to be an explosive runner. I mean, and it looks like kind of moving forward, we can kind of talk about bridging the gap here because there was a big draft for you guys. But before that, you guys added some good, talented players on the offensive line. Did you guys add Tyler Linderbaum? Is that true?
Yep.
Yeah, added him.
We added him from the Ravens. We gave him a 3-year deal.
Did you add any more offensive linemen, or are you just really focusing on getting your guys healthy?
I mean, Linderbaum was the big guy that we brought in for sure. Colton Miller's still going to be there for us at left tackle. We drafted a couple guys in this prior draft last year that we want to see a little more out of. Like DJ Glaze is someone I'm interested to see how he performs. Jackson Powers Johnson is someone I'm interested to see how he performs as well. And then we brought in a player from the Niners, Spencer Buford, who he has experience with Clint Kubiak from his days in San Francisco. So he's someone that in the early part of OTAs that there was some noise, like he might be actually competing for a starting guard spot if he, continues continues playing as well as he has so far in this offseason. So I would say that's a name to keep an eye out for. But Linderbaum, I mean, having him in the middle is going to be game changing, I believe, for us, and as well as for Genty's production and creating the gaps and, opening holes for him to be able to, make explosive runs.
Fun fact about Colton Miller, he was the Josh Rosen pick. He was the guy that you guys took when we traded up for Josh Rosen. And he's been pretty good too. I think obviously the Josh Rosen aspect of it gets all the attention because he was such a bust. But I mean, you guys did end up taking a pretty good player, and he's still on the team, and one of the better guys in the league. I love the Tyler Linderbaum signing. I know he set a record for a contract for a center, and more than just he blew it out of the water. Super unique scenario where the Ravens were in a spot where they couldn't tag Linderbaum because they'd have to treat him like an offensive tackle because the way the tags work. all linemen are treated the same. So of course the top 5 averages are going to be for tackles. In the Ravens, they're just not in a position because, they got big contracts with Lamar and other guys. They can't really pay a center tackle money. But it was an awesome opportunity for the Raiders to be like, this is an easy and quick upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
We know we're about to get our new quarterback for the next decade. I mean, sure, we may pay a little premium, but like, who cares? We're getting a huge discount at quarterback, hopefully. I love the move. You can't fix an offensive line over one offseason, I don't think.
The collection.
But I mean, you got some like foundational pieces between Linderbaum and Miller, and you're talking about Buford, guy we should look for. Just little steps, here and there to get you where you at least average.
Yeah.
So there's 2 big names that were added for you guys on top of course I guess I kind of want to get to that too, the Max Crosby situation. You guys had a busy offseason, but
yeah, it's hard to keep up with how much happened.
But no, it's crazy. So you guys added the Seahawks offensive coordinator Clint Kubiak, which you guys already mentioned, right? And you drafted Fernando Mendoza, number 1 overall. What do you think of those 2 hires? Were those your 2 guys that you wanted, or were they kind of like this is the best of what we got? I'm glad we got them. Or are you?
I mean, I would say that they were both the best possible additions that we could have made.
Yeah.
When the news came out that we were letting Pete Carroll go, I was a bit surprised, but also not surprised at the same time. I kind of figured after just how many coaches we had been through that we would have given him another year without Geno Smith. So when it was, the news broke that Carroll wasn't coming back, I personally didn't think we were going to be a very attractive destination for a coach, just given that a lot of these guys come in and they don't get the leashes that most other franchises give their guys. So when as coaches were filling other spots in, the offseason, as we were letting the playoffs, go through, it came down to us and the Cardinals as the last 2 teams without a head coaching spot. And, Kubiak had mentioned, time and time, like he wants to be a head coach in the NFL. And that was when I started to get pretty excited that, we're not going to wait until after the Super Bowl to not try and go after a guy like that. And I think he was a home run hire. We saw what he did with this Seattle group and with Sam Darnold, who, he revitalized his career in Minnesota, but people still had a lot of question marks, I'd like to say, of him when he got to Seattle. They weren't really sure, was the Minnesota year a fluke year? Did he, reap the benefits of having Kevin O'Connell as his head coach and the schemes that he drew up for him? But no, Clint Kubiak, I mean, he's been, son of, a former head coach in the NFL as well, Gary. So, he's had his run. I mean, he had success in San Francisco. He had success in New Orleans. He had success with the Seahawks, obviously. And, now him coming in and being able to have a guy like Fernando Mendoza, I think is going to be very fruitful for us. I'm very excited to see how that goes. And yeah, I mean, Fernando, how could you not like the guy? I mean, Heisman winner, national champion, one of the most likable presences in sports, I would like to think. I'm very excited to see where this goes.
The Kubiak thing is funny because you did mention the Cardinals. I think we were used as leverage. I would have been very excited. I was not under the impression that we had a real shot. I think we actually made our announcement for Mike LaFleur like 2 seconds after Kubiak made his decision. And so I think we knew we weren't real contenders. But yeah, outside of sports, I look at nepotism and I'm like, don't really get too excited. But when it comes to sports, I am a sucker for it. And if your dad is a former Super Bowl head coach, I like my odds. It doesn't usually hurt, I guess is my point. So yeah, I would be very excited with Clint Kubiak. But then yeah, adding Fernando Mendoza. I mean, I'm a little bitter because the teams with the top 4 picks all had the same record. So you guys won the tiebreaker because you had the easiest strength of schedule. It feels like though had we won the tiebreaker, we would be the Raiders this year. There are a lot of exciting moves, with the new I think Clint Kubiak would have chose us.
Oh my God!
I
Stop.
think we would have got Fernando. Oh, okay. Because then, what would they have done at quarterback? Well, I guess they got Kirk Cousins, but maybe we would have got Kirk Cousins. Maybe we would have had some fun free agent spending on defense.
Maybe he just likes the organization more.
Come join the
his
dark
dad,
side.
his dad, most of his career, he was the John Elway offensive coordinator, right? Isn't that Gary Kubiak? He won the Super Bowl with the Broncos, right, as a head coach. But
He did.
his real resume was being behind Mike Shanahan and John Elway, I think. So he grew up a Bronco. Am I getting that right, or am I mixing that up?
Yeah, I believe he was part of the Shanahan tree.
Oh, he likes the Raiders better. I don't know. I think he spent a lot of his life rooting against them.
I'm not saying a fan of them. I'm just saying, like any interviewer, they're gonna look at the organization and see how the flow chart works.
I'm gonna look at who's the quarterback position.
The Raiders.
And I'm gonna be like, one team has the first overall pick in a one quarterback draft, and the other doesn't. The other's taking a running back at third. Which one looks more attractive? I'm just saying if the tiebreakers worked a little bit different, I think the conversation might be a little bit different too.
Your team's owner charges your players for lunches.
I think Mark Davis has his flaws as well. So.
All right.
And no, we did just recently change the food charging.
Oh wow, they can eat for free.
That was a recent change.
It's funny. It's funny you bring up the strength of schedule though, because it came down in the final weeks. I want to say it was the second to last week of the season is when we played the Giants.
Yep.
And that was a battle for the first overall pick. And I don't like to root for my team to lose, but that was a game where I was all in on us losing that game. And that allowed us to then play the Chiefs in week 18 and us beat them. It was a good feeling to go out on the season on a win and then not actually hurt our chances of a top overall draft pick like how we have done in years prior. So,
and the reality is, because I think you and I, we've been in these situations given who we root for. It's not that we hate our team. We actually root against them in scenarios for the better. Because again, let's just say hypothetically you win that last game, you get bumped down to number 3, you have no chance at Fernando Mendoza. It's for the long-term success of the team, what is actually better? 2 hours of feeling good about winning a game? Or what does that game really matter? How many of these guys on this team are actually going to be on the next good Raiders team?
Yep.
Sometimes you I don't know. Sometimes you kind of have to root against your team in a sense.
We might have been looking at a different situation had we, won that game against the Giants, or the cards had fallen differently where maybe you guys get the first pick and we fall in the 3 to 4 range where, Gino's not back, but do we roll the gun with Aiden O'Connell again for one more year? Do we bring in a guy like Malik Willis to come quarterback for a few years? Do we just, go in and keep Pete Carroll and try to lose out for Arch Manning the following year? There's so many what ifs that come with that whole situation. And I'm happy that I don't have to think about those situations. And hopefully Fernando, in due time is our guy for the long and foreseeable future.
So I kind of want to also touch on that odd story about Max Crosby being traded to the Ravens, because that was truly a once in a decade news story where a top player got traded and then all of a sudden it was never mind. And then they go back to their team. I'm sure you got a lot of information on that situation. Can you pretty much explain why it went down that way? And do you wish it went through, or are you glad that Max is back?
I mean, it's hard to not want a guy like Max Crosby on your team. I mean, he is the tone setter for our defense. I mean, he has been there through our transition from Oakland to Vegas. He's one of the few Raiders. I want to say we have 3 left on the roster that are from the Oakland days, between him, Colton Miller, and then our punter, AJ Cole. Mm-hmm. Having a guy like that, I think it goes back to last season when he hurt his knee midway through the year and he went on the injury reserve for a period of time. And then towards the end of the year, when we weren't winning games, the Raiders basically asked him to sit out. We were like, they wanted to get the better draft pick, and they believed that by having him sit out and, rehabilitate the knee, that he was going to be in a better position, maybe for a trade, maybe just for next season. But he wasn't too happy with that. One of the few things I fondly remember is that after we shut him down for the season, he posted a clip of him playing basketball in his house, basically giving the middle finger to the organization.
Yeah.
And I thought as soon as that came out, we were done. I thought the marriage was over right then and there. So fast forward to the Ravens come calling and offering 2 first-round picks. As a fan and looking at the bigger picture, I mean, how could you not be, excited with that kind of return? You have to think that, like what you guys have mentioned about the time frame, for when the Raiders might become good again. Crosby's on this big deal right now. He's going to be in his 30s by the time he potentially might be good. And is he really going to be there and still contributing at a high level worthy of that contract by the time, we're hoping to win some meaningful football games? So when, the deal happened, I looked at it as a plus. We were going to be able to pair Fernando with, either a game-changing receiver or get one of the best defensive players in this draft. So I was excited about having the 14th pick there. And, when the Ravens did their analysis of his knee, I think they got cold feet. They started losing a lot of players in free agency during that little window. You saw Trey Hendrickson available, and you didn't have to give up 2 first-round picks to get a guy who could contribute up to the same level as a Crosby could, and still keep those picks. So I personally think they got cold feet, even if, Crosby's knee was maybe, let's say, 85, 90% like good. Maybe there was a little hesitation, but I think they saw how many players they were losing in free agency, and, a guy who was available, who was willing to come to their team and say, no, I think we should play this off like we didn't, we think there's something, seriously wrong there. And maybe there is, but it's hard to not look at that and kind of feel like they had a little bit of a, snake to the trade sort of thing.
And
I'm not a Raiders fan. I was happy for him when they did make the trade. I'm sympathetic towards the idea of like, you literally use draft picks so you can draft Max Crosby. And so like, if you already have like, the bird in the hand, I get it. But I go back to my, hey, how old is he? Is he young enough to be on the next good Raiders team? You knew one pick was the 14th overall pick, which is, pretty, right in the middle, but like pretty decent. I saw some good opportunities. Personally, my thought was like maybe get an offensive lineman to continue to build for Fernando Mendoza. I was a little disappointed for the Raiders though when it fell through. I am also under the impression I think that the Ravens got cold feet. I don't think they broke a rule, and that's kind of like what's unfortunate is, like you can't, like, what are you going to do? Like discipline them? Like they didn't break a rule, but it's just kind of, in my opinion, like frowned upon. Yeah. It seemed like the analysis on his knee kind of was like somewhat already public and like league known. And so for them to be like, oh, like we didn't see this coming, and sure, we like Hendrickson. He might not be apples to apples with Max Crosby, but is he 2 first-round picks better? Like, I do think there was some cold feet there. So I was bummed out. But, you still look back at all the moves that they made on defense this offseason. It's not like the worst situation. Like, I would welcome him back, and you still could trade him to a team like say the Bears or someone. Like, it's not out of the question just yet.
Heard the Eagles.
Yeah, I was just going to say the Eagles have been one of the 2 teams rumored to still be interested in a potential trade. I mean, it's been them, and the 49ers has been the smoke recently. But yeah, I also think that, when we initiated that trade, that was right at the start of free agency. And so that's when we started making a flurry of our deals. We signed guys like Quay Walker, Nakobe Dean during that period. a guy like Kwity Paye probably doesn't get a contract with us if Crosby, never got traded. I think we ultimately had a guy like him coming in to be the replacement. And with our cap space situation, we had so much money freed up from the trade that I think that was our intention. But luckily, we didn't get too deep into the signings to the point where we couldn't bring them back. So I think in the end, it's worked out, but I wouldn't rule out a Crosby trade in the future.
Yeah, no, I really think that this is going to be a very interesting season coming up for the Raiders. I'm really excited for them, honestly. I really do think that the weapons on off. I mean, that's so funny. We went this entire time we didn't bring up the best tight end in the league, Brock Bowers. That's so funny.
Oh, stop that!
I knew it. I knew it. Yeah, I did it on purpose. That's called purposeful.
He's top 2 and probably second.
No, he's top 2 and number 1.
Hard disagree.
No, I love Brock. I love them both. I love both those tight ends. They're great. They're definitely the best two. But let's go ahead and jump from the potential best tight end in the league to the old best tight end in the league, Travis Kelce, because his team took a very interesting turn last year. Coming off of that Super Bowl loss from the Eagles, they went ahead and just could not, like I said before, put it together this year. And it was very interesting to see a team kind of, I don't know, just not be themselves. I mean, we're so used to seeing the Chiefs. I mean, they're basically the new dynasty. I mean, heck, they're about to win 3 Super Bowls last year. And they just could not put it together. I mean, it seemed like right from the jump when I believe it was the Chargers game, like the Chargers, or who beat them really early on in the year? Was it the Chargers?
Chargers was week 1 in Brazil.
Week 1 Chargers, and they beat them, and it was kind of eye opening. I was like, wow, like they like the I'm not gonna say we'll get to the Chargers, but like it seemed as though the Chiefs were always like the big brother to that team, and it was like they just kind of always found a way to beat the Chargers, but. The Chargers coming out and beating the Chiefs week 1, that was interesting to see them do that. And then they went out to Kansas City and lost to the Eagles in week 2. It's like, holy crap, like this is a weird year for Kansas City. And it just never got better. And it was very weird to see. What did you guys notice from the Chiefs last year?
Ooh, I mean, they looked old. Like, honestly, in most facets of the game. I mean, Travis Kelce still had a somewhat productive year, but I mean, you could notice a reasonable decline in his level of play. The offensive line, I think, suffered also this past season. I want to say they had some injuries on that offensive line pretty early that, they weren't doing their, the same job of protecting Mahomes like they had in years previous. Mm-hmm. And I think with having all those guys on big contracts, it just started, their depth was kind of killed after those Super Bowl runs. They had played a lot of games. The people who had been around had the wear and tear. And it just was one of those years that there was no rebounding. They fell in a hole early and they couldn't dig themselves out.
I felt like they were the product of all the success that they had. They're a very top-heavy team, and I mean, they got some of the best players on the top of their roster, obviously, with Mahomes and Travis Kelce. I mean, he's not maybe like elite anymore, but Chris Jones, being one of the better defensive linemen. They ended up trading Trent McDuffie. So they got a little good return for him, but it just didn't really feel like the depth was there like in years past. And again, you go to 3 straight Super Bowls, your team's going to get plucked. And so it's still impressive that they had the success that they did have. Obviously, it kind of showed last year, though. I mean, you lose Mahomes for a good portion of the year with injuries. Like, yeah, we talk about like, wow, this is as high of a draft pick as they're ever going to get. But some of it's, you can kind of easily explain away. And some of it's just like bad luck, I guess. And I guess that's more of the injury aspect of it. They did make a big move, though, with Kenneth Walker. I like Kenneth Walker. I didn't really seem like that made sense to me. I gave him a good little contract. And given, because you're going to have, cap, restrictions given, what you're paying to your quarterback and one of the better defensive players in the league. Didn't really seem like the best use of resources, in my opinion. He's not really much of a pass catcher out of the backfield, and when you don't really have like that number one wide receiver like they used to have with Tyreek Hill, they haven't had it since.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'd kind of want that dynamic for my running back, but I guess that's Travis Kelce's role is to be their wide receiver one in a sense.
Oof. See, that's what concerns me about the Chiefs. It's like that's really who they're going to rely on for their wide receiver one. I mean, I don't know if you noticed, but Travis Kelce looked slow last year.
Oh yeah, he looks
like if that's who we're going to rely on for their number one wide receiver, that's a scary proposition. I mean, they're hoping on Rashee Rice getting out of jail and like becoming their wide receiver one again. Like that guy's not very trustworthy either, unfortunately. And man, I just don't know like how much longer this dynasty can really last. I mean, it looks like Mahomes is literally going to have to carry this team for, all intents and purposes the entire way to wherever they go. And is this the first time that Mahomes has ever really had to come off like a catastrophic injury? Like, did he tear any ligaments in college or anything? Is this is this a new thing for him, or has he ever gotten hurt seriously before?
No, I think he's gotten nicked up during the season, but nothing like season ending or like
nothing
long-term.
to this level for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, he's out in practice now.
Like that's a question mark. I mean, like anytime you have a knee injury like that, like he can come back and practice and be ready to play, but we all know that the year after coming back from an ACL injury, they can play, but they don't look the same. Like they aren't the same quarterback most of the time. Like sometimes you're a freak like Adrian Peterson or Tom Brady or whatever, but like, most of the time when you have an ACL injury, you are not the same guy the next year. And it's not like they have a lot of talent to kind of like hide that. So, those plays where Mahomes would scramble and be like one speed better than the defender that's chasing him, is that going to be the norm, where like you like see him just kind of just eluding the guy behind him? Like that's kind of his hallmark, and I don't know if that's going to be him anymore. Very interesting to see where they go with this, and it feels like a little mini rebuild. I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah, I'm a little worried they're gonna rush him back, and like there's reports that he might be ready by week 1. But I think if you rush him back to start the season, you're gonna be disappointed with his level of play and his output. He's gonna go in there and try to give you everything he has, but the smart decision might be for the long term of the team, that if they want to win more Super Bowls within the Patrick Mahomes era, I don't think you should be trotting him out week 1.
Sit him a month.
And they just extended him too. So like he's clearly in their long-term plans.
Yeah.
What's the first 4 weeks to like the greater plan? It feels like to me, if they're going to be true Super Bowl contenders, it's probably going to have to be Andy Reid's best coaching year.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't their best roster. I like their defensive coordinator, Steve Spagnuolo. Seems like he's always getting the best out of whatever he's given. And like you do have Chris Jones, even though he's on the older side, you still have him if we're in the context of like this year. Not a bad foundational piece to have. I think coaching's going to have to do a lot of work this year if they want to actually be not just playoff contenders, but Super Bowl contenders.
Yeah. Who'd they take in the draft?
They traded up to the 6th overall pick. The corner from LSU.
We thought it was
Lane.
That's right. They took the corner out of LSU. To replace McDuffie. Yeah, that's actually that was a good pick.
It was interesting when they moved up because they went from 9 to 6. I didn't think the cost was really that much. But I think that says a lot about what we thought about this draft. You had a lot of teams you had more teams who wanted to move down than you had wanted to move up. So they had an opportunity. And, as we learned from the Raiders, we didn't mention them, but in the 4th round, the Raiders did take Jermon McCoy. And so we thought, when healthy, he or Delane would have been like the top 2 guys. Mm-hmm. My understanding is the Chiefs were like, no, like there's only one corner in this draft that we want. And so it's worth trading up to get him.
Yeah, that was a good smart move by them for sure.
Yeah, especially after the McDuffie trade. I mean, for them, they needed to replenish their defensive backs, and they needed some depth back there. So between bringing in Delane, they even brought back L'Jarius Sneed, who was a top guy for them a few years back as well.
He was their guy.
Jalen Watson, they lost him to the Rams. Like the Rams took their entire cornerback room. It's crazy.
Yes, it's gonna be interesting to see how the Chiefs go. And I think we can probably spin this to the next. I mean, we could talk about the Chiefs forever, but let's spin it to the next team because honestly, like just talking about their disappointments could be boring because there were two teams in the AFC West last year that really kind of took advantage and kind of took that next step forward in a way. The Chargers and the Broncos, and we'll start with the Chargers just because we're going from lowest to highest in terms of the divisional rankings. The Chargers were a team that definitely seems to, I don't know, they got Jim Harbaugh, and I always noticed them as like the team that had like the high flying, great passing quarterback, Justin Herbert, a lot of good passing stats and a lot of great wide receivers with Lad McConkey and Keenan Allen and those other guys like Quentin Johnson and stuff like that. But it's very interesting to see Jim Harbaugh kind of turn that team overnight to like a hard nosed running team and it led to some successes with them. And their defense actually, continued to play well. The Chargers defense has been pretty good for the past year or so, if I've noticed correctly. And it's very interesting to see that Harbaugh effect kind of take full force so quickly in LA. And it was really interesting to see that lead to some wins. Did they make the playoffs? I can't recall if they made the playoffs or not. Did they make it this year?
They lost to the Patriots. It was kind of an ugly wild card game.
That's right. Yeah, I remember.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, that was a gross game. Yeah. Yeah, so that was a very interesting year from them.
I think the jerseys and the powder blues kind of played a role into like thinking they are like softer. And even Jim Harbaugh, I remember when he was hired, he even like talked about it. He's like, don't get fooled by the powder blues. Like we're gonna be a rough and tough, team. Like that we're gonna build through the trenches, run game, etc.
Yeah, I mean, Jim Harbaugh has had his success in football. I mean, you can't doubt the mind. He's one of the smartest in the game. And so I think one of the big things to keep an eye out for is their, addition of Mike McDaniel as their offensive coordinator. Coming in, I mean, he was seen as one of the brightest minds when he was with Miami. And so to come into a team that, try to bring some creativity to that offense and along with the, hard running game that they were going for towards the end of the season. It's going to be interesting to see how, they pair McDaniel with Justin Herbert and, how they utilize their weapons. Like a guy like Njoku was brought in from Cleveland in the offseason. So I'm excited to see how, they use him to over the middle to try and open up the offense. And, it'll only be more beneficial for the run game and for those young guys they have in the backfield. I'm excited to see what, how they rebound from that disappointing loss in the playoffs to the Patriots and see where they go from here.
Could Harbaugh and McDaniel be any more different?
I was just thinking the same thing.
I would love to be a fly in the wall. Not just from like a schematic standpoint, but from like a personality standpoint. Like I would love to just sit in like a film room session with them and hear them go back and forth. I mean, it sounds great to be like, hey, let's have two people on opposite ends of the spectrum and then like just pick and choose the best of each and mold it together. But like if there's any kind of hiccup, if they start 2-3, the offense kind of is like averaging 18 to 20 points a game, so not looking too great. Could that just completely blow up? I'm excited for it. I'm just acknowledging like there is a universe where I do think that combo could just completely, we haven't lost a game yet. So like everything's fun. I could see a scenario where it doesn't work.
So the thing about Herbert is, I don't know. I see Mike McDaniel's offense in Miami, and the offense was really well ran when Tua Tagovailoa was like on point and the ball came out quickly and it was an accurate pass. But I always noticed in that offense, whenever the first read or whenever basically like the play wasn't there, Tua had nothing. Like it was like fish in a barrel. Like he would just get destroyed, basically to the detriment of his health, honestly, sadly enough. With Herbert, I wonder though, is this offense going to sync up well with him? Because Herbert does seem as though he's a little bit more of a gunslinger. And I wonder how that will mesh with the Mike McDaniel timing-based, crossing route system. Or will this be like a branching off point that'll make the offense better that, it might make the McDaniel offense that much dangerous, or if it won't work for this type of quarterback. I just wonder I'm very interested to see what that looks like with a different kind of quarterback, because Tua and Herbert are not the same type of quarterback.
Mhm.
But this is the only quarterback we saw McDaniel use. It was Tua or a backup, and no one else really took the mantle. So, like, I'm very intrigued to see what this looks like with a different kind of quarterback.
I've
Yeah,
always been
and
like a Tua skeptic. I mean, like you said, he's kind of a rhythm guy. And so the best thing I think for him was to have good weapons like Waddle and Tyreek Hill, with that amazing speed, and even at running back as well. Plus having McDaniel draw some things up for him. I don't know. Like I felt like you said, he's not like uber athletic. He's not big. He doesn't have an ultra strong arm. He was super reliant on it being timing based. And yeah, Herbert's everything that's opposite of that. Um, we'll see. I mean, it's easy to be like, oh, McDaniel, that's Tua's his prototype, but that's just what he had in Miami.
Yeah, he worked around it.
I mean, he's just working with what he's been given. Now, to be fair, when he did take over, Tua was on his rookie contract, and as a big Mike McDaniel fan, I didn't like them signing Tua to that big deal because I didn't quite trust him. And so part of me was like, oh man, you just tied your career to Tua. And it's not going to be the same when that same guy who used to be cheap is now super expensive. And not to like toot my own horn, but I kind of feel a little validated of like, oh yeah, like it kind of probably cost you your job. So we'll see how it looks with Herbert. I mean, I think I don't think McDaniel would have even taken this job either if he didn't like the idea of coaching Herbert. So we'll see about that.
I think he looked at the opportunity as getting to coach one of, the most promising young QBs in the league. And, if his goal is to ultimately getting back into a head coaching position, I think getting an offense like this and turning them into a potential top 5 offense is going to definitely turn some heads. And if I remember correctly, he's I believe the only former head coach who's in the coaching progression, something that the NFL is doing for like the young
I've
coordinators.
Heard about this. Yeah.
And he's the first one
He's
with
in there?
former. He is, yes.
I feel like that's given how he has 4 years of head coaching experience. I feel like that's not really like the intent of that program. I feel like that program is supposed to really promote young guys we've never heard of, maybe even like quarterback coaches or like position coaches. I mean, I like McDaniel. If we had to pick one guy that we think will get a head coaching job next year, is he not like at the top of the list? Like,
yeah, it would be.
He's got to be up there.
Like, I don't know. That's funny that you say. I'm familiar with that program. I didn't know he was in it though. That just seems a little silly to me. I could have gone to someone else.
But yeah,
and he's also technically a minority. I know. Like I remember when I learned he was a minority, it did catch me off guard. But like maybe that had something to do with it as well.
Maybe so, but he's got the background between his time in San Francisco and like you mentioned with Tua, he only knew Tua as his quarterback in Miami. So I'm very excited to see what he does with Justin Herbert at his disposal, especially with a guy like Herbert who is able to make his way through his progressions. Tua was very reliant on the first option in each play. Herbert likes to, he goes through his progressions. He'll go to his first guy, he'll go to his second guy, go to his third guy. So I'm excited to see, and it'll be very telling to see how Tua performs outside of McDaniel's offense this year as well.
Is Tua starting? Tua's starting, isn't he?
Oh, yeah, I think Penix isn't ready from a health standpoint.
God. We haven't done the NFC South yet, so I haven't even kind of studied up or brushed up on that. But wow, Tua's going to start for the Falcons. Yikes!
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's
at least he's cheap.
At least he's cheap. Wow. Now it's gonna be a fun. It's a fun division. It was so fun to see all these teams kind of make these different changes, and the Chiefs kind of go down a few pegs, and some teams kind of take some steps forward. So I guess we'll wrap up with the division winner, the Broncos. Really almost like a bittersweet story here because they made it all the way to basically the AFC Championship game, but the caveat was they didn't have their quarterback. They played that really crazy Bills game And on the on the final play of the game, basically, like Bo Nix, didn't he like break his ankle or something? Like, wasn't it something like where he broke something in
It
his
was like the
foot?
second to last play, I thought.
Yeah,
Thought
it
he
was,
took one more snap.
yeah, it was crazy. And like as if I was a Broncos fan, I'd be gutted, to know that like we're about to go to the AFC Championship game and oh, my star quarterback isn't going to play. Like that's terrifying. That just sucks. And they were led by a fantastic defense. They had a very well, let's just say like opportunistic offense. I mean, Bo Nix definitely seemed to take a step forward, but there were some games where like he just pretty much looked pedestrian in my opinion. He wasn't having like a Drake May type season where like he was in MVP consideration, but he was, he was successful. He definitely had some improvements in some of his game, but sometimes he just didn't look that great. Their offense definitely needed a boost, so they went out and got Jalen Waddle. So it's very interesting to see like that they didn't think that offense was enough. And I agree. I didn't think the offense was enough in Denver. They seem to be a team that was definitely ran by their defense. And it's going to be really cool to see if Bo Nix can kind of take, that momentum that he had last year and kind of get back to where he supposedly was supposed to be. I mean, look, he led them to an AFC Championship game. He never got to play it. That just sucks. And part of me is like rooting for them. It's like, well, he never got that chance, so I hope he has success. But I don't know. Very interesting season from them.
Yeah, I think the Jalen Waddle signing trade is a home run for them. And I think the biggest beneficial from that trade isn't Jalen Waddle going in a new situation. It isn't Bo Nix himself getting himself another weapon. I think it's Courtland Sutton personally. Courtland Sutton was a great receiver for them last season, and he's been great in the past, the prior years with the Broncos. But being able to put Sutton against your cornerback too, I think is going to free him up so much. I would be shocked if we didn't see him, go off for a 1,310 touchdown year pretty easily. As long as Bo Nix is as long as he's healthy and can throw him the football, I think bringing in a guy like Waddle is going to free him up in this offense so much.
Oh, I'm a big Courtland Sutton guy. I've had him in a few years in fantasy.
Yep.
So
I knew it was coming.
There it is coming. So I watched a lot of Broncos games last year. I mean, he's an imposing guy. I mean, like, man, he just has a great wingspan, go up and snatch the ball. It just frustrated me sometimes because sometimes like Bo Nix just wouldn't throw and he wouldn't get the ball to him. And I'd be looking at like 0 points through like a half. And I'm like, give him the ball. But then you got like guys like, who was that fast receiver that they kept throwing to? Troy Franklin.
Yeah,
Troy Franklin. Yeah, Franklin kept getting the ball, and I was like, oh, you're kidding. Is he now the number one receiver? Yeah, and he got some play for a little bit. And Courtland Sutton, but he definitely was the red zone target. And I agree. He was the best receiver on the team. And I do think even with Waddle coming that he will still earn, like you said, those targets, and you'll hopefully have a good year coming up. He is kind of getting on the older side. He's been around for a little bit longer than we think. We tend to think of him as like he's like the up and coming receiver, but no, he's been around for a while. So he's in his prime, and I hope everything kind of lines up for them to be successful. I hope that offensive weaponry is enough for Bo Nix. I mean, you got Franklin and Waddle and at this point Courtland Sutton, and it just seems like it's a good enough team with the running game, which I believe is led by RJ Harvey, which shockingly, I did not know that. If you looked at RJ Harvey's advanced stats, apparently he like kind of sucked, which I didn't see that. I thought he looked pretty good, but apparently PFF like ranked him like really poorly. Sometimes one of those things where you kind of have to take off the PFF glasses a little bit, but it seems like a good enough offense to do well and win some games. I really do see this as maybe like a 2-team race between the Chargers and the Broncos at this point. Maybe the Chiefs can kind of make some headway if Mahomes comes back healthy, but I don't know. It seems like a Broncos Chargers kind of battle for this division. That's what I'm kind of seeing.
I'll make it 3 for 3. I really like the Jalen Waddle deal too. Given how he plays, speedsters like him aren't typically like high volume guys. So really their impact's made by making the job easier for Courtland Sutton. So I'm totally with you guys there. I think he's exactly what that offense needed because they went 14-3. Let's just say like we'll give the defense credit for 10 of those wins, and then let's say the offense was worth like 4 of them. So they're definitely led by their defense. They got just a good overall roster, which is crazy given like how quickly they've recovered from the Russell Wilson thing. Not only taking the huge cap loss by cutting him, but then, all the draft compensation, how quickly they got like a top 3 roster, like overall, like outside of quarterback. I think they'll be competitive for, not just the division, but another AFC title run. Yeah, I think this, I do think, like you said, John, this is probably a 2-team race, and I'm sure the Chiefs will make it interesting, at least late. But yeah, to me, I think it's pretty clear Broncos Chargers probably the top tier of this division.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I would agree with you guys on that as well, that, barring how the Chiefs come out to start the season, do we see Mahomes right away? Does Mahomes look like himself right away? I do think it's going to be chalked up to a 2-team race between the Broncos and the Chargers. If I had to put, a dollar on it today, I would like to think that the Broncos are probably going to continue the success they had from last season and come out with the division, with the Chargers probably only a game or 2 behind. Yeah, I'm very interested to see how the division plays out in the middle of the season and towards the end of the season. I got to give my flowers to Sean Payton for what he's done with this Broncos team, because when he took the job, I mean, they were looking like one of the biggest dumpster fires in the NFL. With how badly, Russell Wilson had, performed in Denver. There were a lot of question marks, I'd like to think, with Bo Nix when he first came into the league, or even just coming out of college. That was he a product of, a successful Oregon system? Was he actually going to be able to perform? I think you have to give Peyton a lot of credit for how quickly he's turned around this team and how fast he's turned it into a powerhouse in the league. And I'd like to go a step further too, to mention that, a guy who's probably going to be seen in the head coaching circle, when we're in February next year, Davis Webb is an eye to keep an eye on. He was getting interviews for head coaching positions this offseason as a quarterback coach. They fired their offensive coordinator to keep him in the building.
And gave him play calling duties. Tom Payton's giving him play calling. Like, that's how serious this was. We're like, the only way we can keep you is if we let you call plays. So I'm with you there. He's a future head coach.
He was someone that I was personally getting a little excited about, because he interviewed with us a couple of times. That, when he first was coming about, I didn't know too much about him. Start reading into him. He started interviewing around more. I started to think he was going to be our guy just by how the beat writers were talking about him. And so he's somebody that, if the Broncos even emulate half the success they had last season, if they can make the playoffs with, a good Bo Nix season, and the players on the offense are really, putting up good seasons, I think he's going to get a pretty easy job, and you'll probably be in the fighting for whatever the best position is open next season.
Totally agree.
Nice. All right, so we reached that point in the pod where we decide our bold predictions for this division. Now, it can be a team bold prediction, it can be a player bold prediction, it can be how the standings break out bold prediction. So if you have one in your head, this is a time to bring it up. I will start with mine. My bold prediction is that Patrick Mahomes suffers another long-term injury and he does not play more than 8 games next year. I'm not even trying to be mean. I seriously think that this injury is going to be something that his play style will not bode well with. I think he's going to try to be the Mahomes that he thinks he is from the past years. And he's going to dip and dive and dodge and do the 5 Ds of dodgeball, and then one of them's going to end up getting him hurt again. And I don't know if it's going to be his leg or if it's going to be an ankle. I just fear that the weapons aren't going to be as productive as he kind of hopes they are, and he's going to scramble too long. He's going to get hurt. That's what I think. And I wonder if that does happen, what does Andy Reid start thinking about for his long-term career there? Like, I mean, I think he is the oldest head coach in the league. I mean, he's had so much success. If Mahomes goes down again, it's another long-term injury. Reid, he's not immortal. he's gonna have to take a step down at some point, and I just wonder if those question marks will start in Kansas City for him leaving if Mahomes goes down and they have another subpar year. So that's my bold prediction. Another down Kansas City year, another injury for Mahomes, and we start thinking about Andy Reid's time in Kansas City kind of maybe over. That's my
The
bold.
Mahomes thing's interesting because physically, people have talked about how he has a dad bod. And so in a league full of like chiseled Greek gods, he's got a little tummy and it's just funny. Like he's probably the best player in the league, or at least the most accomplished right now. And yet a lot of people love to give him credit saying, oh, he's not human because he can, sustain all these injuries, because he had the injury in the first Super Bowl against the Eagles, right? The ankle one. He had the other, he's had a couple, I think, ankle issues. And he's never really missed significant time until last year. Was it an ACL last year? What do we know what did it in for him last year?
I believe it was an ACL.
Yes.
ACL, okay. Yeah, I mean, I'm not trying to poo-poo high ankle sprains and stuff. I mean, they're serious injuries, but I mean, this is clearly the most severe one. So we'll really put to test if he truly is human or not. Like some people are trying to say that he's not. So yeah, you're right. And there's some of those runs that he makes too. I think was it the Titans that one year where he kind of scrambled and he's moving really slow and he somehow turned it into a touchdown run. And that's supposed to be one of his highlights of his career, but I can't help but to look at that play and be like, no, that's a low light on the defense. Someone should have tackled him. So how he hasn't gotten more injured is kind of impressive, I guess.
He tore his ACL December 12th. There's no way if he comes back for the first week that he's going to be one. He might be ready to play, but his body can't be physically 100%.
And something we haven't mentioned too is they traded for Justin Fields. So you don't trade for a guy like Justin Fields if you don't think that there's a chance he might not be ready. Even with these reports coming out saying that he might be ready to go by week 1, you might as well give Justin Fields a shot to, maybe he's a deadline trade for a team that needs a boost at quarterback. And if he comes out and he's productive for the first 4 games of the season, might be able to get a draft pick out of it. You might be able to, maybe Mahomes is behind schedule, maybe Mahomes gets hurt again. There's a whole lot of what ifs. And I think having a guy like Justin Fields, you don't trade for him for no reason.
Absolutely.
It was a 7th rounder. They also did draft Garrett Nussmeier, who I think he had some back issues that made him undraftable for a lot of teams, why he went in the 7th. But on field wise, I mean, a lot of people were like, oh, he's day 2 pick. So you're right. They spent some, assets on boosting up that quarterback room, probably because there may be some hesitation on his availability.
And not many people remember Nussmeier was looked at as a potential first-round guy about a year and a half ago. You mentioned the back. I mean, I think there were reports that came out later that he knew he had a back injury, and the head coach of LSU, Brian Kelly, was the one to kind of push him, and which ultimately cost him his job.
Yeah.
Nussmeier was looked at as a potential first-round guy. I don't think anybody was projecting him to be a number 1 guy, number 1 overall, but there were plenty of mocks, if you look up, a year and a half ago, that were saying top 10, top 15 potential.
It's the classic look of what it's like. You're telling me something, but your actions are showing me something else. It's like you can tell me Mahomes will be ready week 1, but your actions are showing me you might not think that. You wouldn't trade for Fields and draft a quarterback if you thought Mahomes is fine. So that's just the way it is. So Tanner or Collin, do you have a bold prediction for the AFC West?
Yeah, I'll share mine. I'm really high on the Chargers. I know I gave you the alternate universe where things could collapse. I'm doing the thing. I'm buying in on the Chargers. I feel like we've done this before, but I'm a sucker for Jim Harbaugh, and I really like Mike McDaniel. Combining the two, I mean, I think they're going to make it to the AFC title game. Ooh. I think my AFC North prediction was that they were going to play the Bengals. So I guess it's going to be a Bengals-Chargers AFC title game.
That's fun. That's
I
a
mean,
fun.
I
look,
like that.
they're good quarterbacks, but this is a conference with like Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patrick Mahomes. Like, there's a lot of really good quarterbacks. So, Bengals Chargers, I guess, is gonna be my bold prediction for the division.
All right. Colin, what you got?
So going with a bold prediction for my squad here, I think we're going to see the Raiders receiver room actually be above average this season.
Bold.
Yes.
That's bold.
We look at this team, they did not invest draft capital into this receiver room. We drafted two guys in the second and fourth round last year. We took Jack Besh and we took Dante Thornton Jr. out of Tennessee.
Yeah.
We have both of them coming back for year 2. We brought in a guy, Jalen Naylor from Minnesota. We have Trey Tucker, who actually had a very productive season for us last year, despite all of the turmoil with Geno Smith and the offensive line's play. I think we are going to be a very surprising receiver room this season. I think we're going to see the emergence of one of them. Now, you could chalk it up, who's it going to be? I couldn't tell you that right now, but I think we're going to see one of them turned into a legitimate wide receiver one, and we're going to see this receiver room become an above average receiver room.
Please,
I like Jack Besh.
I love Jack Besh. I'm going with Jack Besh. That's my guy. I traded DK Metcalf for a second.
Wow.
And, it was for a second round pick at the time, and the board did not fall favorably. But yeah, that was a trade I made.
So let's just say that comes true. Let's say they are above average. Is that like an 8-9 win season?
Yeah, could be.
I think our ceiling is probably 8 wins, and I think that chalks up a lot to the state, like how the division is going to fall.
Okay.
We're probably best chance probably going to go 2-4 in the division. If I had to chalk it up, we might get a surprising win against one of.
It's a tough division, so I would sign up for 2-4.
Yeah, we might get a surprising win out of the Chargers and Broncos. We tend to play the Chiefs actually. We usually have one blow-up game and one pretty good game against them each season. And with them in their current flux, I think we could catch them off guard, in one of our 2 matchups this season. I think realistically we're probably a 6-win team. But I could see us being an 8-win team if things go right. It's just a matter of I think it's really going to depend on, how we treat the quarterback position at the end of the day. But I think our receiver room, whether it's the veteran presence of Kirk Cousins or, we throw the young buck in there and just let him spray the ball across the field, we're going to have a good receiver room.
You set that up perfect because I was just about to ask, do you actually think they're going to sit Mendoza all year?
All year, I find it highly unlikely.
That's what they said.
I find it highly unlikely it's all year. I think ideally as a fan, what I would like to see is I'd like to see him get probably the last 3 to 5 games of the season. I think you should be sitting.
3-9. You're 3-9. What are you watching for if it's not for him?
Yeah, and that's my exact thing is I don't think we're going to have a phenomenal record going into a week 12, a week 13. We're probably not going to be fighting for a playoff position. And if we are, Kirk Cousins might be an all-pro. But I think at that point, we want to see – I want to see Fernando play a little bit this season. I don't want to see him starting week 1. I think that would be probably worst case for his progression in the league. Some quarterbacks, almost all of the former first overall picks have been thrown out week 1. We saw, Cam Ward last season get thrown out week 1, and that was a bit rough to watch for him as a promising guy that went number 1, Bryce Young had a pretty rough start to his career too. And I think they all had better situations throughout their college career, more starts. They had better things going. Whereas I think a Fernando his offense was strictly out of the gun at Indiana, and most of the time, same thing at Cal as well, go Bears. But yeah, I think it'll be interesting to see. I hope he gets 3 to 5 games. Ideally, I think that would be the best case scenario. I'd like to have Kirk Cousins be, I think the baseball term for any baseball fans out there is a Chad innings eater, for a guy who just throws bulk innings and could get you 6 innings every 5 days. I want Kirk to be our, games eater for, 10, 12 games, and then let Fernando take over.
Got that rubber band arm. He'll throw 250 innings and give you a 4.8 ERA. He'll just eat those innings up. I love it.
And you just love to have a guy like that because it gets your bullpen some rest.
Yep.
He doesn't have to be like the engine of the offense in his rookie year. Let that be Genty. The offensive line got a little bit better. Kirk Cousins is serviceable. Run the offense through Genty for a year. There's no reason to rush. I mean, like you said, if he wants to play the last 5 because that's just how the season played out, so be it. But like squeeze all you can out of Kirk Cousins and run the offense through Genty. Just keep it simple.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I mean the contract we gave Cousins is essentially a 1-year deal. I know it was 3 years.
I know you got a heart attack
million.
though. Yeah, I know.
Oh my gosh.
5 years, 172.
Yeah, when I first read the headline for that, I almost cried. I'll be honest. I was so surprised, but in reality, like when you look at the terms of the contract, it's essentially a 1 year, $20 million deal, and most of that money is coming from the Falcons. I think in reality, we're paying him $11 million.
Yeah, the details pretty much say, they don't say it literally, but it pretty much says you are not playing year 2. Like this is a 100% 1-year deal.
Yeah, and if he makes it further than that, that's when he starts getting the serious money. And so I'm kind of hoping ideally, maybe he has a great year for us. Who knows what happens? Maybe we bring him back, but he should ideally not be making that serious of money if Fernando Mendoza is going to be even as close to the hype that he's getting.
It's because you won a Super Bowl and you're just going to thank him. That's to me, that's my understanding. That's the only way you bring him back.
Yeah. I mean, at that point, yeah, you build him a statue because he somehow got us out of the dark ages. But yeah.
All right. Well, that was a good pod, guys. Let's wrap up with, I believe we talked about it earlier today, but we have this segment called The Extra Point where we kind of do like a grab bag topic thing. It could be something about life, something about the world, something about like a would you rather, give it maybe a quick shout out. It's literally whatever you want to make it. So let's go ahead and do the extra point.
The extra point.
I love that. Okay. All right. So I had some fun with those sound bites. But all right, does anyone want to hop in? Tanner, Collin, do you have an extra point that you've been sitting on? Anything that's grinding your gears? Anything that's annoying you or you want to do a shout out for?
Yeah, I can go ahead and go.
Okay.
So last week my extra point was about Brennan Sorsby. And just a couple hours later, it just went completely null and void because everything changed.
Yep.
So now he is declaring for the supplemental draft, and it sounds like all indications are his request is going to get approved by the league if it hasn't already. So all those college takes kind of irrelevant now. Good for the NCAA to actually like be able to have rules and enforce them now, which I usually don't say good for the NCAA because they're not an easy organization to root for, but it just didn't make sense. You have a clear rule, no gambling or you're out forever. And it just got overruled by higher courts and whatever. So, yep, no more of that. It's strictly my extra point's going to be about, I know you guys have quarterbacks, but some of us don't. This is a serious thing. I know he was allowed to play for college for a little bit, but like he's got one mistake in him and then he's out of the NFL in my opinion. Like I think Calvin Ridley had the 1-year suspension, but given this guy's history in college now, I think the leash is even tighter. I mean, it's going to be more than 1 year if he were to ever slip up again. But he's talented enough to be a first-round quarterback. And how many opportunities do teams have a chance to just put a bid in for a guy? Usually you're just relying on wherever your draft pick is. So my question is, if you're a team like the Cardinals, Jets, Browns, whoever, what kind of pick are you willing to put a bid on for?
I think given the circumstances of what we've seen from him in college and how good he can be, I would wager that we're going to see a team give up at least a third round pick.
That's what I'm
Now,
thinking.
going
Yeah, I
back to
think that's fair.
prior drafts for this circumstance, my Raiders actually gave up a third round pick in 2011 to get Terrell Pryor when Terrell Pryor entered the supplemental draft.
I loved Terrell Pryor.
He was a baller. Who else can you think of goes from playing quarterback to receiver and becoming 1,000-yard receiver in his first year of playing the position? I think we're going to see at least a third round pick for Sorsby. Some team will do it. I could see, even like maybe one of the bad teams from last year doesn't do it. Maybe one of the middle of the pack teams just says, maybe we're pretty good this year. And, it's a late third, maybe in the late 80s, early 90s sort of situation. Maybe we take a shot and see what happens. I could see that happening.
I think it's fascinating because, I said Cardinals, Browns, Jets. I think just about any team, honestly, other than the Raiders, because they have a young quarterback, or even like say the Titans, where like they clearly this is their future. You could make a case for the Eagles. You know how they are when it comes to like trying to build the quarterback room.
Mm-hmm.
How many chances do the Eagles get to have a first round talent guy and maybe only spend like a fourth round pick?
That sounds like Howie Roseman to a team.
Put him on ice for a year. Like maybe build him up like a Tanner McKee type and like, show him off in the preseason. Maybe once that guaranteed money from Jalen Hurts is off the books, now you have leverage.
Someone's doing some research.
Right. The Buccaneers, with Baker being, on a 1-year deal, the Vikings having some uncertain, they're good teams who I think could make legit claims as to why they should be interested in him. That's why I am so fascinated by where he ends up going. If it is a third round pick, if I understand the rules correctly, that would benefit the Cardinals because I think the tiebreaker, the order is based off the most recent draft. And so we did have the first overall pick in the third round. So in theory, I think our third round pick beats everyone else's. A team like the Jets have 3 first-round picks. My understanding is you actually don't get to select which of the 3. Like this is a whole new territory. So I've been doing some research. Mm-hmm. If you're the Jets, you don't get to pick. I want to auction the Colts first-round pick.
So you get the best one.
You give whichever one ends up being your best, which you would think it'd be the Jets because it's the Colts and the Cowboys.
Yeah,
Cowboys. Yep.
So I would think the Jets would be the worst. And I think they could be decent, but that could be a top 5 pick. Like,
I know, right? That's risky.
Are you actually going to risk that?
In a 2027 draft, which is supposed to be really good.
Exactly. And when there are that many good quarterbacks you foresee without gambling issues.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think all this is just going to be super fascinating. I'm super desperate for a quarterback. Like, I don't trust that. Just like this year, we lost more games than any year in franchise history, and we were shut out of getting a quarterback. Who's to say that doesn't happen again next year? And there's a chance you could just put a bid in for a guy. He's 6'3", 238. Like, he's got the stature. I don't know. It's so intriguing.
Sad, Tanner, to see you all excited about Pete Rose football version, over here. Good Lord, man!
I will take 4,000 hits in the all-time career hits leader. Yes. It's not like he bet. Again, it's a serious thing, but he didn't bet against his team.
Is he?
And they were never in games that he participated in. It's okay, not all crimes are equal. We have jaywalking and we have murder. They're both crimes. But one seems a little bit worse than the other. It's different if he was throwing games. And so hopefully he deserves all the help he can get because it's an addiction and I hope he gets it. But if he wanted to play quarterback for us while he's getting that help, I don't know. We'll see.
I see it both ways because I wonder how much of that was him knowing what he was doing and just having fun with it, and then getting caught and then, trying to claim the rehabilitation as a
Yep.
way to like kind of get off with what he did scot free, or how much of it really was an issue that he was personally going through. I think I read that he was trying to fit in with his teammates, which is what led to the gambling at the start. Trying to be fitting into the locker room was something that I had read.
Hey guys, let's do something illegal. Let's do something
Yeah,
against the
I
rules.
mean,
guys.
like, I
Yeah.
believe you read it. That's not very convincing to me.
Yeah, I just think that, yeah, I mean, a team is going to put a flyer on him. So I guess, I would love to see him in Minnesota personally. I think if I had to pick a team for him to go to, I'd love to see him end up there. But where would you guys want to see him ideally land?
If it's not the Cardinals, because that's I think the more interesting take. Honestly, a good team. I want to see someone put him on the sideline, maybe develop him for a year or two, use him as leverage for when someone's guaranteed money is off the books, and be like, I don't know, Jalen, kind of have a noodle arm. You've been carried by your offensive line and
stop. I'm not
Saquon
gonna
Barkley.
No, Sorsby. No, you know what Sorsby deserves? He deserves the Browns. That's where he deserves.
Well, I mean, if I heard right, Todd Monken did come out and say like, no, that he's not an option here.
Oh my god! Dang it! There goes that. No, I don't. Here's the thing, guys. Like, I don't know too much. All I've heard that he's like a fringe first round pick. I don't know how good
It's
he
all
is.
tools. Yeah.
So like I don't know just how like for me to say like what pick he's worth, it'd be disingenuous for me to even put a tag number on it because I don't really know how good he is as a quarterback. Is he a first round pick in this class or was he a first round pick in next class? Like is because the quarterback crop wasn't that great behind Mendoza this year. So like,
I heard he was a Ty Simpson level in like different styles of play, but like grade wise would have probably have been in the Ty Simpson area.
So that may so now you say to yourself, would Ty Simpson be a first round pick in 2027? I don't know.
I think he would have.
Really? In 2027 with the Dante Moores and dude, there's a lot of good quarterbacks coming out in this class.
Bo Nix went as the 6th quarterback and went 12th overall.
That's true.
I would have him as a first round guy in next year too, Ty Simpson. Wow. I mean, the only knock on him in this draft as to why I think a lot of people didn't want to take him so high is because he only had truly 1 year of starting quarterback play in college.
He would have doubled his career starts next year too.
Wow.
And so many franchises love to see a guy get 2+ years of starting ball with high upside.
I had my hesitation with Ty Simpson.
I hear you. All right, Collin. So what's your extra point if you have one? If not, it's fine.
No, we're in the off season obviously right now for football. We're in a very exciting time, I think, for other sports. We just had the NBA finals wrap up with the Knicks winning. We just saw the NHL wrap up with Carolina winning that one in an exciting fashion.
That's right.
And now we're getting into arguably one of the biggest events in the world, the World Cup.
Yeah.
So my question is for you guys, who do you think is going to be winning the World Cup this year? And who are you personally rooting for if it's not the U.S. in this World Cup?
What little I know about international soccer or just any soccer, it does seem like we have the best U.S. team in a very long time. And I was hearing that before the victory last Friday. So I think winning our group is more than an expectation. Like, I'd like to see us actually win a game or two or a match or two in the next round. What is that round called? We're in the group stage now.
I couldn't tell you the name after we make it out of the group stage.
It's essentially like win or die. It's like single elimination. It sounds like we could win a match or two and maybe make it to like a quarterfinals. Like that's the ceiling that we have. So that'll be exciting to watch. It feels like, your typical European countries, like France is going to be pretty strong. I feel like Germany is always pretty strong. I've always liked Mbappe. I mean, before I realized how good he was, I heard about this guy with their last name was Mbappe, and I'm like, oh, this is like, I love that name. That's awesome. He
Oh
turns out
man,
to be like amazing. So I'm like, oh, that's not as like fun. That totally sounds like a bandwagoner.
Yeah, he just
But I
became
mean,
France's all-time scoring leader for goals the other day. At the
he's
time of
like
this recording, he had
mid
a hat
20s.
trick the other day. Yeah.
Yeah, I because France won it in 2018, and then they made it to the finals in 22, lost to Argentina.
Yep.
So like, clearly they're getting the chances to win it all, and when you play that many games, that's going to give you a lot of opportunities to be your country's all-time scorer. If I had to choose a country, I'll go with France.
I am rooting for a good matchup. I literally have no, I don't know crap about world soccer. I really don't. That is like the one sport where I am just like right over my head. I know some of the top players. That's about it. I couldn't tell if me picking a team would be so
Name a player.
disingenuous. Exactly. I don't. Yeah, and I won't know anybody. I don't even want. I don't even want America to win. I don't want Team USA to win. I definitely don't want them to win. So I am very much like just I will watch the elimination games because it's fun to watch. I mean, it's exciting. It's it's and plus it's in here. It's like it's in America this year, so it's really cool to see all the stadiums. I really enjoyed seeing the NFL stadiums filled up with all the different World Cup fans. Like I saw an aerial view of the Eagles stadium filled with like a different. It was like filled with like a. It was like I don't know what two countries they were, but it was filled with like orange and green, and it just looked so different. It looked so vibrant and just a completely different color scheme than what I'm used to seeing, that dark green, white kind of scheme that the Eagles have. And just seeing like the Europeans come to America and see the differences in the culture that is America versus what I guess they see in headlines and things like that. So that's kind of what I'm getting out of this World Cup, is just seeing everyone travel to America and just kind of get to experience the differences of our culture from like north, south, east, and the western part of the country. So it's really cool to see that just how people can come here and see like, wow, like southern food's crazy, or oh my gosh, New York pizza is awesome, or Philly cheesesteaks. These people from all over the world are experiencing our culture, and I think that's pretty cool. But as for the games, I'm just rooting for a fun time to watch. That's all I really care about.
I will say I think I heard there's a possibility in the next round that like the U.S. could play Iran, and like the storylines just write themselves.
Oh,
So that would be fun.
Yeah.
Yeah,
they've
so-
been dealt a pretty difficult hand with their travel situation before and
Did
after.
I hear they actually have to fly out, and like they're not allowed to like stay overnight here? They have to fly out after each match?
So they're staying in I believe Tijuana is where they're being stationed at.
Okay.
And I think they were originally actually supposed to stay in Arizona. So yeah, they've got a difficult hand for sure.
Tijuana being at the border, I mean, that kind of like it makes the most sense, I guess. Are they playing in LA? Like where?
I believe their first game was in LA.
Okay.
What about you?
Of the NFC West teams, of course, the Cardinals are the only of the four who aren't hosting any. And given how much history we have of like hosting big events, don't tell me it's because it's too hot. It's an indoor stadium. Like, why don't we get to host something like this? I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm a little bitter because of course
they should. I mean, we've gotten the college basketball national championship in the last few years with both men's and women's coming out here. Like we've hosted, we had the WBC for baseball a few years back. Also,
we have natural grass. Isn't like the huge like topic about like how these Premier Leagues don't let their players play on artificial turf because it's not as safe, and there is no like having to replace our grass because it's real. It's what they use. So yeah, kind of a bummer.
No, Tanner, I don't want to hear about your grass after the 2022 Super Bowl. All those players will be slipping around like they're on ice skates. I'm not doing that again. I don't think it will. Yeah, they ran the ball forward, and our defense had no answer, and then Gannon left for Arizona. So that's why. That's why it was very easy for them. They could just run forward. But yeah. So Colin, what about you? Who are you rooting for? What are you kind of hoping for?
I will say the first thing that seeing all the different foreigners come into the country and experience the culture that we have out here in the States has been very fun to watch.
Mhm.
Like I saw a handful of foreigners who were in New York because there's games in New Jersey, and they were there flying in the day the Knicks won the championship and just saying, is this really what America is like when you couldn't even get around on the streets in the city? Or like, I believe it was the Norway is playing in Boston right now, and then like drinking the planes dry on their
Saw
flights
that.
in. And yeah, so I think it's fun seeing all these different countries and people coming in and getting to experience what's going on over here. But I mean, for me personally with soccer, I really only tune in during the World Cup. I don't watch a whole lot of European soccer
Mhm.
leagues or anything of that sort as well. I know some of the top guys, but outside, I hope the U.S. does well. I'd love to see Germany win. My family roots are from Germany, so I'd love to
Mhm.
see them be able to, get over the hump. They had a huge win the other day. I believe they put up 8 goals.
Yeah.
So I would
Against
love to see
Curacao, the
them do it.
smallest country to ever qualify.
Yeah, yeah, it was kind of surprising because I think they typically are kind of grouped in with the Netherlands and other sports.
So
Um,
I went to Curacao on a cruise last year, and so they are a district of the Netherlands.
mhm.
Curacao and Aruba. Fun fact.
There you go. Love that
So
show.
yeah, I was surprised to see that they had their own team in this go around.
And they scored a goal. There you go.
They did get one. They did get one. But if I had to guess, I'm going to take a bold prediction and say I think England is going to win the World
Oh,
Cup.
that is, man, you came with some spicy takes because England always disappoints.
I think they've got a really good team this year around. And I mean, they won their first game against Croatia, and I think England's going to do it. You might chalk it up to like France or Portugal or Argentina, the teams that have been there and done it in recent years. But I don't know. I like to put my chips, elsewhere. So I'm going with England.
On the 250th birthday, England comes back on top.
Story as
awesome.
old as time.
All right. So my extra point this week is actually not really like an extra point. It's more of a promo. So me and Tanner have been really like getting as much, I guess, short form videos made from these clips from this podcasting setup as possible. We put them on TikTok, put them on YouTube Shorts, put them on different platforms, see which ones can do better. We try to aim for like 3 a week from our podcast. So we try to clip from at least 3 different moments and post them on those short form platforms. And we try to aim for like 1,000 views on like a couple of them if possible a week. And that our idea is if we can get those views, then you could put like a little advertisement at the end and say, hey, this is from Birds Coast to Coast. Come listen to our podcast. We have full episodes on YouTube, right? Try to build the actual audience on YouTube, right? So we have about 35-ish followers on TikTok. And since it's now summer break, and to build the follower count, I have decided to launch the Run for 100 TikTok follower challenge. What I'm going to do sometime in the next week before the podcast, I'm going to start a daily running challenge for myself, not Tanner, just me. And every morning I'm going to go out and run the amount of minutes we have in followers. So I'm going to jog 35 straight minutes, and every 10 minutes I'm going to create an update on a TikTok and stop while I'm running and do a hot take about either Eagles, Cardinals, answer a question from the previous TikTok video, and then just kind of see me get progressively more tired and about to die. So I'm really excited to see how this goes. I have a whole summer break to do this. I have almost nothing on my docket for at least a month or so. I'll have a lot of time. So I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to run every day, every single, and then if it keeps growing, we get more followers. I have to run that much longer straight through. So I'm going to keep doing that every 10 minutes. I'm going to do some TikToks, like post them. It's going to be real fun. Hopefully on that first video, we get some questions because I want those questions because I want to answer them the next day because I'm going to run out of hot takes eventually. So if I keep doing it every 10 minutes, I'm going to run out of hot takes. So I need to start doing some questions. So hopefully those do well. We want to get those follower counts up to 100 and then more. So it's a big launching point because at the end of the day, we want people watching this video, this hour 40-minute video, because yes, I'm glad that we're getting thousands of views on TikTok, but I want the views here. Like, I think we want the views here so they can be a part of this community and part of this family and a part of this dynamic, because this is where the fun part happens. This is where we start to, get to know each other. And it's been fun getting all our friends kind of join in for these long pods. And I'll tell you, the ones that we clip for TikToks are usually the people who we bring on. So, like, honestly, in the episodes that do the best are the ones where we bring on someone. So it's been really exciting, and I really hope that this week, I don't pass out from like overheating or like dehydration, and B, I hope that people think it's funny. Look, I'm gonna look stupid. That's kind of the point. So I'm gonna have fun with it though. So I'm nothing.
If you pass out though, that should be good for views.
Oh no, it'll still get posted.
This is the start to your marathon journey. We're going to see you running a marathon in no time.
Right, just to prove a point, just for some TikTok clout. It'll be fun. Tanner, do you want to? No, you don't have to participate.
No.
If you ran in Arizona, you would die if you did that in Arizona.
I turned into a puddle.
Like I'm thinking about getting out here like at 7 a.m. in the morning, because I know this sounds crazy, but like it's hovering around like 99 out here, and 99 in North Carolina is not like that. That's humid. It's a humid.
In high school, we had rules saying once it gets to 90 degrees, you can't practice after 9 a.m. So then in high school during the summer, we'd have to practice at 6 a.m.
Yeah.
So we could still get the full 3 hours. Like it was brutal.
So I'll be out there super early, because frankly, anything past, like you said, 9 a.m. is just literally impossible with all the humidity. So it'll be fun, and I'm just hoping it works.
I love it.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun. All right. Anything else before we wrap up, guys?
I think I got it all out.
All right.
Thanks
again, Collin, for joining us, man. We'll have you on again sometime for sure,
definitely.
man. It was awesome.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It was a blast, and I'm always happy to talk some ball. So thank you.
Man. All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us on this week's episode of Birds Coast to Coast. Later.